Hello, it's the Crap Goth, and I am here today to talk to you about grief. Now, I will say right from the off, so for those people who have never seen any of my videos before, my name is Pixie, and I am mum to 3 amazing children, one of which is also a YouTuber called Crack in the Box. His name's Kori. And sadly, just 2 weeks ago, Kori passed away at 11 years old. Now, this is the first time I've actually filmed since he passed away. We filmed together lots on his channel and on my channel too, just having a laugh. We did TikToks together, and I felt that this was a video that was really important to potentially help other people who were going through a similar kind of circumstances to Kori and I, what we were doing. And that was, Kori was in palliative care following 2 heart transplants that very sadly didn't take. The transplants were successful. Kori's body just rejected them, fought against itself, and eventually took his life. Now, as you can probably understand, this is a very, very hard situation for me to be in, and I'm sure there's so many parents across the world who are grieving their children, and they're all different circumstances. I don't think it matters how your child passes. The fact that your child has gone before you in any circumstances is unnatural. You know, it's not something that any of us want to kind of feel, be in. It's just, it's hard, and that's what this video is about. Now, if it's not for you, just turn it off. I am going to cry. I am probably going to make myself look an idiot. I am going to be very honest with you. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to probably have a bit of a rant about things and everything. So if anybody is following our journey, or has been following Captain Kori's journey and myself, you will know that, like I said, he was in heart failure and kidney failure. He is 11 years old. I don't want to use him in a past tense. That's one of the things that feel so strongly about. Kori will not be spoken about in past tense, because for me, he is very much here, not physically, but as soon as I start talking about him in past tense, that means I have to accept it, and I can't yet. His funeral is actually in 2 days' time, so I haven't been through that yet, and I thought that now was the perfect chance to kind of film before the madness starts of family arriving and going through his funeral, which I actually still don't know how I'm going to get through right now. So this might be a bit of a long video, I don't know, but please bear with me. Hopefully this will help somebody. Potentially you're feeling the same way if you've lost a child or are on a palliative care route, and this video is helpful to you. Please let me know. You know, I'd love to hear your stories about your precious children and your experiences, and see if they're similar to the experiences that I and my family are going through at the moment, and things that people don't tell you about. Like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. This is going to be brutal. Probably not one for younger viewers. So, yeah, wish me luck. So, starting off the video. Today is the 24th of July 2023, and Kori, my precious, amazing, brave little 11-year-old boy, passed away on the 9th of July, so it's only been a couple of weeks, which has absolutely flown, really. I will start with the question that everybody asks me. Not something that you want to be asked, is it? But how did he pass away? So the answer to that is in my arms. Did I know it was going to happen? No. Yes, he'd been poorly for a long time. Captain Kori, because he was a pirate fanatic, for those of you who don't know, absolutely his whole life was about pirates. His YouTube channel was about pirates, you know, his whole life is about pirates, should I say. He was knighted by Sir Johnny Depp, Captain Jack Sparrow, on a video call, which is incredible, and you can see that on Crack in the Box if you go onto his channel. I'm sure that Kori will link that his channel below if she can. So Kori, as I said before, had 2 heart transplants. Now, he was born with a condition called hyperplastic left heart syndrome, so he only had half of a working heart. If you want to go and Google what that is, because I really cannot go into that right now. It involves a lot of surgeries, some of them which Kori wasn't able to have, like the Fontan completion, which is one of the 3 stages that you can have. Kori wasn't able to have, so he was listed for transplant, and at ages 6 and 8 had heart transplants, which were pretty intense. They're not the easiest thing to get through. They're very, very psychologically damaging for children. The first one was better than the second. It's a lot of recovery time, a lot of medicines, a lot of very invasive procedures. The second transplant for Kori was very, very hard. It was kind of an emergency situation. He had Berlin hearts attached to him, which are an artificial heart, and that was a very, very stressful, very scary time for him. And he actually, at one point, asked me to let him die because he just couldn't take it anymore. He was covered in tubes, and it was just horrific for him. Not quite ready to go into that full journey, but there is a video on Crack in the Box called Kori's Story, and that does tell you more about that. So, leading up to Kori's last few days, he was very tired, sleeping a lot, didn't really want to eat and drink much, still chatting though, still talking. We actually did a home video, so Kori and I filmed quite a lot for YouTube. But also, obviously, I filmed him every chance I could get at home, little snippets of videos. Sometimes he told me off for doing it too much. But he was still very excited. I made him a banana split. Not in a banana split glass, because we didn't have any, but I made him a banana split on a little plastic plate, and he was so excited.
What's up?
How did you make this?
It's just banana cut in half, but because I couldn't, we don't have any banana split dishes. So banana cut in half, like one each side, chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, strawberry ice cream, squirty cream, sprinkles, chocolate sauce.
Oh.
Is it okay for you?
I've never seen something this bloody cool.
You get much nicer ones in proper banana split things, but we don't have any, so.
Even though this looks bloody amazing.
Enjoy, dude.
Thank you.
Alright, love you.
Love you too.
See you later. Enjoy.
And that was only like 4 days before he passed away. So we literally had no kind of prior warning that it was going to happen imminently. Kori is known as Curveball Kori by people who know him and across the world as well. And that is because he was renowned for getting very poorly, ending up in hospice care, who provided our palliative care for us, who were incredible. Most of the time we were at home, but obviously we did go to Rainbow's Children's Hospice, which is in Loughborough in the UK. And they are incredible people, amazing people. But again, that'll be another video. It's, Kori's always kind of got poorly, and then he just bounces back, literally Curveball Kori. He just kind of just got on with things. He never complained. He never was mardy. He never, you know, like he was just so brave about everything. You know, he just took everything, you know, like it was normal. The crazy amount of meds he was on to keep him going was normal. The 4 times a day morphine was normal. The just constant. It was just part of his life. He was born with a heart condition, and he lived with it all his life. And there really was no warning that this was going to happen for us, so that was a complete shock, because I always thought there would be. And apparently that with transplanted children, that can just happen. That was the first thing that we didn't know about. So the day before Kori lost his battle, he had randomly out of nowhere a 7.5 hour nosebleed. Nobody knows why, nobody could tell us why that happened. We had the paramedics out. They couldn't stop the bleeding. We tried everything, and in the end it took a clothes peg, which we had from our next door neighbour. Kori chose that himself. He had a green nose peg on. He just wanted to sit with tissue on his nose and a nose peg. And he was sitting up, talking to us. You know, he wasn't happy about having a nosebleed, but there was no indication whatsoever that his end was near. And yeah, he had this nosebleed for a long time, 7.5 hours, and then he was very sleepy that evening. And that's quite normal for Kori. You know, as someone in end stages of heart failure, to be sleepy is very normal. Kori relied on oxygen as well. He had a condenser. I can't remember what it's called now. A little machine that gave him oxygen, which was brilliant. He had that quite regularly. So that wasn't anything abnormal really for us. And he just slept a lot, but I was concerned about him. So I spent the night on the end of his bed, mostly sitting on the floor at first, just holding his hand and talking to him and stroking his face and all the things that I normally do to kind of get him to sleep. And then he still wasn't quite right. I knew there was something not right, but I just didn't know what it was. So I curled up on the end of his bed, and our dog, who's my therapy dog, Gypsy, she curled up into Kori as well, which was quite unusual. Looking back, I should have known. And she wouldn't leave his side. And the next day came and he was still very, very drowsy. Wasn't eating or drinking. Wasn't really responsive as such. But like I said, he was so tired. He'd have days where he'd just sleep for 15 hours a day, you know, so that really wasn't anything to kind of rouse our suspicions. It was only when we got towards the late afternoon, I was like, something's not right. And his breathing was quite noisy. So I rang the hospice for advice and was told that it was probably his voice box. When you're very relaxed, the kind of fluid in you, apparently naturally, it doesn't make noise, but obviously we're able to control that so you don't hear it. But Kori, because he was so tired, was very relaxed, and he'd also been given midazolam, which is a drug to help keep him calm because he was a little bit agitated. And so upon advice I gave him that, and so they said it was just fluid, and he wasn't in any discomfort, nothing to worry about. And then my daughter rang her boyfriend and asked him to come over, and he was away at university, accommodation still, so he caught a couple of buses and came over. And I think it got to about 6 o'clock at night, and I think I knew. He had developed a very noisy breathing, like I said. Now, I'm only telling you this because I would not normally say this out of dignity for Kori, but I think it's really important that people know what to expect. So this is something that nobody warned us about. Nobody told us. I had no idea this was going to happen. I have never seen anybody pass away before. Obviously, I've looked into it with having a palliative care child. I Googled a certain amount and asked a certain amount of questions, but nobody prepared me for actually what happened with Kori. And that was, he developed a very noisy rattle. And I'm sure if you Google it, they'll come up with all kinds of names for that. And I'm not going to say it because it's not nice, but that's what was happening. And I rang the hospice and held the phone to Kori's mouth and said, look, is this what I think it is? And they didn't say yes, but they didn't say no. It's just kind of, they can't assess because they can't see the child. And in Derbyshire, now this is something we're having issues with right now. In Derbyshire, there are no palliative care services for children, no dedicated palliative care nurses for children, none, not any. We had to travel to Loughborough, which is 40 minutes away roughly by car from where we live, to get any kind of palliative care services. And so we were on our own, and it was a Sunday night. And so obviously it's not 9 till 5, it's not a weekday, and there's nobody to come out apart from paramedics. And Kori's care plan very specifically stated that he did not want to go into hospital anymore. He was so traumatised from all the experiences, he wanted to stay at home. And because there's no services available, we were on our own. You know, we had phone call advice, but that's not the same when someone's hours away or whatever. So, yeah, I was sat with my daughter and my husband and my little girl. We kind of brought her in to see her brother. She gave him a cuddle, and then we took her out and she went to play some games. She's only 5, so we didn't think it was appropriate. And things just went downhill really quickly. it was just so. The thing that we weren't warned about was the noisy breathing. The fact that this is really hard. Nobody prepares you for the death of your child. In all honesty, they can try and mentally prepare you and explain the logistics of it and the medical terminology and everything, but emotionally, psychologically, even what happened, nobody could really prepare you for that. No matter how prepared you think you are, you're not. Believe me, you're not. I mean, I've known for almost a year that Kori, was palliative, but people can go years being on palliative care, and he just kept bouncing back. So it got to the evening time and he had this rattle that was very, very loud and he was breathing very, very hard. So I knew then that we were literally on this path. And there was nobody to call, there was nobody to contact, so we knew that we were on our own. And so I took Kori into my arms. I took his oxygen mask off him because actually at that point was not doing him any good whatsoever. And I gave him some more midazolam. I did check that was okay to do that, and it was. I didn't want him to be scared or anything else. So I had him in my arms here. And his big sister was holding his hand, and Kori breathed really heavy a few times and then suddenly it went shallow, but it was still very, very noisy. And to me it sounded like he was gargling. And I'm so sorry for these people who know Kori, and I will tell you in a little while that it actually was a peaceful passing. But it didn't seem like it at the time, which is why I think it's really important to be honest with you. Because if you think someone passing away is like it is in the films where they close their eyes and they drift off to sleep, I'm sure that is the case for some people, but it wasn't for Kori. And it certainly wasn't anything that I expected. I guess I expected that to happen, for him just to fall asleep. But it was very noisy and that very much distressed me. And he took his last couple of breaths and stopped breathing. And we thought he'd gone. And then he took a gasp. And then he took another gasp. And then he was gone. And I think at that point in time, it was just shock. And my daughter instantly broke down. She's 20. She just broke down, and luckily her boyfriend was in the other room, and she ran to him. And I think I just went into absolute just disbelief. So I did the only thing I think, obviously, whilst he was passing away, we told him how proud we were of him and that we love him and that he's just so brave and that he was such a fighter and it's okay to go, and lots of positive, beautiful things that we could kind of think of telling him. And I kissed him lots, and when he'd gone, I just held his head. Obviously I kissed him, and then I just pulled all the covers, all the pillows away from him, because he slept on a lot of pillows to keep him propped up right, because he couldn't breathe. And I just remember pulling all these pillows out frantically and throwing them on the floor. And I got him and just lay him down flat, because I know what happens, so I needed to lie him flat. And I just rang 999 and said, look, my child's died. And they said, what makes you think that? And part of me just wanted to be like, because his heart stopped, I just wanted to scream at them what a stupid question that was. But obviously they have to ask. And we have a SATS monitor on Kori, which is like a little thing they put at the end of your finger, and you can register how much oxygen's in your blood. So we had that on his finger, and we actually watched the numbers go down to 0, which is how we knew for definite, obviously. And then the paramedics came out very quickly and did an ECG on Kori and confirmed his death, and that is when I lost it. Bear with me. It all became a bit of a blur. After that. It was a case of the paramedics were here for quite a long time. Actually, they had a lot of paperwork to fill out. They were really nice. Yeah, the guy was really nice who came out. I don't remember his name, but he was really, really nice. And they gave us a choice. In between all this, my husband was on the phone to the hospice to let them know what happened. And I think we rang Newcastle, which are the people who have helped Kori through all his transplants, and rang them as well. And then we were like, what do we do? And we were told initially that obviously there's no services, so we had to wait until Monday morning until the funeral directors opened. And it was Kori passed away about 25 past 7 on Sunday night. And I was just like, okay, that's fine, I can keep him here. I want to keep him here. I don't want him to go anywhere. I want him to be at home in his bedroom, And then my husband must have spoken to the hospice again, and they actually gave us a choice, because I don't know what we would have done if it wasn't for Rainbow's Hospice, because had we not been under hospice care, we literally would have been on our own. There was nobody there to help us. There is no palliative care services. And Kori didn't want to go to hospital. So, so the hospice gave us a choice of staying at home with Kori until the funeral directors could come out on Monday and pick Kori up and then take him to Rainbow's Hospice, which is where we wanted Kori to go for a few days, because they have beautiful services there. They have a special kind of, I call it a bereavement suite, but they're called quiet rooms, where the children, there is 2 special bedrooms there, which are cold rooms, basically. The children can go there for several days, and then they let the family stay with them. That was always going to be kind of the plan all along. So I opted, after speaking with my family, to travel that night with Kori. They offered Kori to be picked up that night, not from the funeral directors we'd originally gone with, but somebody else, because they weren't available. So I travelled with my husband and my little daughter to Loughborough. Kori was in the ambulance, like a private ambulance in front of us, and we just followed behind. That was really hard, because Kori and I are very close. Like, we do everything together. We make YouTube videos together. We stay up all night together because his body clock was completely wrong way around. So we'd spend all night together just chatting and eating snacks, junk food, messing around. We'd spend all our time together. He was very medically reliant on me for his meds and personal care, because he couldn't make it up the stairs and things. So it was just like we did everything together. Like, I know parents and children have a close bond, and most children who are healthy will go off to school, so you're used to being away from them for several hours and they come back. But Kori didn't go to school. Like, we were together all of the time. So I didn't want to be away from him when they took him. It was I chose to take photographs of him, which is something, again, if you're in this situation, you might think, I can't do that, that's really macabre. But actual fact, no, because my little girl's only 5, my youngest is only 5, and she might want to see when she's older, like, the process and understand. And it's not for everybody, and some people do, you cope how you cope, but I wanted to document his whole journey, and that included after he passed away. So that's what I did. I don't think the funeral directors were like very impressed, but I don't care. At that point I didn't care, he's my baby boy. So we followed him and we got to Loughborough, and it was just, I was so scared. But they were amazing. And Kori, like I said, is pirate obsessed, so he stayed at the hospice a lot and had his own room, and he had his own room sign with his name on it, and they put that room sign on the cold room. And they had Pirates of the Caribbean playing, so when he got there and he went into his bedroom, which was his new bedroom, it was not quite so daunting, and they were really, really lovely with us, like, so nice. And my eldest daughter stayed back home here with her boyfriend to kind of look after the dogs and lock up and everything. And it was hard, I'm skipping all of the details you don't need to know. I spent 5 days with Kori, 5 extra days with him. I say it was beautiful, but it kind of was really scary and special and emotional all at the same time. I don't do well with death, you know. I don't even like it when the goldfish passes away, and you know, I don't do well with anything which has died. I am not that kind of person cut out for that kind of stuff, you know. And I've lost my mum, and I saw her when she passed away, and but it was different when it's your child, and your body goes through changes when you pass. Again, I'm not going to go into that for Kori's, you know, it's not fair on Kori to do that, but you know, there are changes. It's very visible and it's very distressing, and it's hard to go from your warm, lovely, cuddly child to one that is not as cuddly because of natural processes of what happens to the body and the colour drains from them and things like that. So, you know, you've got to prepare yourself. If you are going to do that, you've got to be prepared to see things that you're not going to want to see. It's hard. But at the end of the day, that's still your baby, it's still your child. So for me, the right thing to do was to stay for the 5 days at the hospice with Kori, hold his hand, read him bedtime stories and kissed him a lot. Studied him. I studied his eyelashes. I studied the way his hair were parted, and the little freckles on his fingers. And I noticed how tiny his nose was. He had this tiny little nose with lots of little freckles. And the paler his skin got over the days, the more his freckles stood out. And I thought, oh my gosh, he was so beautiful. And it was really hard. I just wanted him to wake up. I remember that first night, I just was sat. That first night was there. They didn't have the fans on. They had a very cold blanket over him with a duvet. So he just looked as though he was in bed. It wasn't anything macabre, or he was just on a normal bed, you know. And I remember just leaning over him and just begging him to come back. Like, please come back, please come back. And I'm just like, I'm not ready to let you go. And it was just horrible. And then obviously he wasn't going to come back. And I went the 3 days with no sleep at all, like completely. I just was in a really bad mental state, and I just didn't eat or drink or sleep at all for 3 days. And then the third day I was hallucinating. And I'm schizophrenic anyway, so I don't know what part of that was just tiredness or mental health, I don't know, but I started seeing things that I didn't want to see, and I was scared, so I went and got a nurse, and I was like, can you please check he's actually gone, because I was convinced he was alive still, and they just missed it, and he was breathing, and he wasn't, obviously. And so they were like, you really need to sleep, Pixie. So yeah, I eventually managed to fall asleep out of utter exhaustion, and then woke up and for a split second knew I was at Rainbows, and I looked over to Kori, which is where he would normally be next to me because we shared a room normally, and I was in the little living room which adjoined onto the cold rooms, and I looked over and there was an empty sofa. There was not a bed with Kori watching his tablet or smiling at me. It was just, and then it came flooding back that where I was and what I was there for, and the fact I had to go into Kori's room and they had to put special fans on because he was just not doing so well. So the fans made his room very, very, very cold, refrigerated, and it was hard to breathe, and I've got asthma, so I found it very hard to spend any amount of time in there with Kori. And I was going in and out of his room over the days, and then obviously my husband came to see us, and then my daughters came, and you know, we had people visit Kori there, and it was just hard. I don't think anybody can prepare you for that at all, ever. But again, I took daily photographs of him. I talked to him like he was here, and you know, I just pretended that he was, I guess. I think I was in denial and shock. Cried a lot. But the hardest bit was when they dressed him in his beautiful captain's outfit that it was custom made for him by one of my friends, Julie. And on the Friday morning, I had to say goodbye to him. And yeah, that was so hard. So hard. The morning that Kori left me, the funeral directors came to pick him up. And the funeral director is lovely. Really, really lovely. His name's Terry, and he's actually a family friend, and he's known me since I was a little girl. And he did my mum's funeral, and he was just turned up. And he just gave me a hug. And, you know, and that was just like, we had Ailstorm playing in the background on the Google thing that they had on in his room. We had pirate music playing, and I kissed him, and I told him that he had to be brave and that Mummy couldn't be with him for this part of the journey, because I'd said to myself, no, I don't again. If it's right for you, then it's right for you, but for me it's not. I knew that I could not go to the Chapel of Rest and see Kori in I'll say it this once, because I call it a forever bed, because I can't handle it, but in a coffin. I didn't want to see it. I couldn't. I knew it would absolutely break me. So I chose to say not goodbye, because I will never say goodbye to him. I chose to say farewell for now. And I said everything that I needed to say with him. I actually built Lego with him. Somebody bought us a Lego set, because Kori was an avid Lego builder. And they turned the fans off for me all morning on that last morning. And I sat building Lego with him, and I painted his nails black, because he used to do that for the Whitby Goth weekend, which is somewhere we went together quite a lot. And he was dressed in a beautiful, he is dressed still, in a beautiful captain's outfit. He has a tricorn with him, and his favourite black fluffy trousers that he liked to wear all the time. No socks, no pants, because he didn't like them. And my shoes, it was always nicking my shoes. So he was wheelchair bound. He was in a wheelchair pretty much all the time, so it didn't matter. But he's got size 7 shoes on size 5 feet. But that's what he liked, so that's what they dressed him in. I couldn't do it. And we took hand and footprints from him. They did finger putty, so I can have some jewellery made from his fingerprints. And then I said to them, could you get lip prints? It's inkless prints. And they said that they'd never done that before, but they'd give it a go. So you're not actually marking anything. You just get this special wipe and wipe all around, like wherever you're going to print. And then they press this special paper onto his lips. They did 3 copies. And it worked really well. So anybody wanting to do that, you know, you can take lip prints as well. I chose to do that. And yeah, it was really hard, but I got in my head that I was going to give him a kiss. I wouldn't see him again. But I literally studied him. I'd taken video footage of him. Now again, that might not be right for you, but it was right for me. It's what I needed to do, because it was just my grief process. Those videos will never be shared online, obviously. And then, yeah, I just remember they put him, the one thing I said is don't cover his face. Please don't cover his face, and please don't put him into a body bag or anything like that. So they didn't. They were really respectful, and they wrapped him up in a blanket, left his face out, gave him a kiss, and then saluted him. That was his salute. So I saluted him as they took him away, and then just broke, because I knew I'd never see him again. And it's really hard, because he's actually in a funeral parlour around the corner from where I live. So a big part of me just goes, just go and see him, kiss him. You know, right now I can actually go and kiss him and cuddle him and hold his hands if I want to. But then another part of me goes, you will break. You literally will break. I can't handle that. I know my limits. For me, that is not right. And it will break me to see him in one of those things, even though I know that's what he's in now. So now we're at the position where his funeral is in 2 days. I mean, it's now 11:15 at night, so it's almost tomorrow already. His funeral's on Wednesday the 26th of July. And I am scared. I don't know how I'm going to get through it. I don't know how to survive seeing my child be buried. I don't know how to do that. Half the time I don't want to be here. And that's being honest, you know, I want to be with him. And then another part of me was just, don't be such a selfish cow, because he fought so hard to stay alive. But nobody can ever fully prepare you for this. No matter how much you think you are prepared and you psyched up for it and you're ready for it. I'm telling you now, he will not be ready, and it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. And how you deal with it is down to you. So don't think you've got a set way of doing it, okay? It's however you cope. I'm probably going on a bit about this, aren't I? But this was never intended to be a short video. This is an honest video. So, Kori is awaiting burial. We have publicly posted about his funeral because Kori's whole life is YouTube, you know. That's when he was most alive spiritually and everything, you know. His eyes lit up when he knew he was going to film. He loved his unboxing videos. He loved just making TikToks with me. He loved filming in general, you know. This was his life. So we have made the decision to hire a professional videographer, and we are going to release a beautiful video of his service and his burial on his Crack in the Box channel. Again, a lot of people will be saying that's disgusting, it shouldn't be made public, but you know, why not? Why shouldn't it? Because at the end of the day, he's my child, and I know what he would like and what he wouldn't like. And I think it's such a taboo subject, and not enough people talk about it, you know. It's a very private thing when someone loses a child. You see it on the news, you see it on the internet, you see it on Facebook, and people, the overwhelming support from people is usually amazing. You get the odd few people who want to put in the 2 pennies worth and tell you what you should and shouldn't be feeling, what you should and shouldn't be doing, and what's right and what's wrong. You know something? Sod those people, because it is down to you. You and you alone know your child best, and you know what is the best for them. And at this point, I actually don't care what anybody thinks. I actually don't care. So I'm doing what I know my child would love. You know, and Captain Kori is loved around the world. You know, he has a very big following. He's got over 200,000 people following him on his YouTube channel. We've had overwhelming support from all over the world, including a GoFundMe which was set up by Koro, which is Kori's manager. And we smashed through our £15,000 target of help for the funeral, because we don't have that kind of money. And we got a lot more than that, which meant that we were actually able to give Kori, or we are able to give Kori, the send-off that we would never be able to afford. Now, cost-wise, what does it cost for a funeral? It depends on what you go for. Kori's funeral came to just under £11,000. That doesn't include the headstone or anything. That's the funeral. We opted for a glass carriage and black horses, a bespoke forever bed, a videographer, the order service, the services for obviously the funeral services themselves. Then the hire of the venue for his wake, which we are calling his pirate party. That was nearly £4,000. And then you've got the cost of his headstone and everything else, which we are actually still designing at the moment. So how much is a funeral? Thousands of pounds. Now, obviously, you can go as basic as you like. The government do actually offer an amount. I think it's about £300 towards the cost of a child's funeral, and that is probably going to cover a very, very basic forever bed. Everything else, family cars, and I don't know what else you're going to need, you know, it's expensive. It's really expensive. We are very lucky to be supported by a GoFundMe, and everybody who has supported Kori on this and us on this, thank you so much, because I could never ever give him the send-off that he's going to get if it wasn't for all of you and your generosity. It's It's hard. I'm struggling to breathe. I'm going to take my inhaler, bear with me. Okay, so it's really hard to know what to say. I wasn't sure how this video was going to go. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to do this video, if I'd just cry all the way through it. The reason for me making this video is literally to help other people. So if you are going through palliative care with anybody, not just a child, but anybody you care for, you know, no two experiences are going to be the same. And I'm sure that the services for adults are much better than children. This is actually something that we are personally battling with the NHS right now. And it's not that I'm criticising the NHS, because, you know, if it wasn't for them, Kori would have even had all this extra time that he's had. What I am wanting to raise awareness about is the lack of services that there are for children. Now, I'm from the Amber Valley, Derbyshire area of the UK. I don't know what it's like for the rest of the UK, but I am pretty certain that I have heard that there are, local to me, only 2 hospices for children. One of them, I believe, is in Sheffield and the other one is in Loughborough. Now, Kori found it very, very hard to travel. He found it hard to get out of bed, let alone get dressed and find the energy to go to the car, get in a car, have his oxygen, because we had to have oxygen tanks with us at all times, have morphine with us at all times. He found it hard, and that was a 40-minute journey, and that's in good traffic. So to sit in a car for him was painful, it was exhausting, and he really struggled. But there are no services closer, none. And there are no palliative care nurses to come out. And at the moment, at this stage, we are trying to get it out there with a particular news. I don't know what to say because I don't want to get myself into trouble, but one of the news channels is trying to help us to raise awareness, and the NHS at this point, only 2 days ago, told this particular news channel that there is no palliative care services for children in Derbyshire. There is none. And then a particular news channel released online news footage on about the lack of care, the lack of services that there are, and the NHS have turned around and gone, actually, we're going to backtrack completely, and there are services available. Now, Kori has a Hickman line, which is a line which goes into his chest and goes through to the entrance of his heart. And he had nurses coming out once a week to flush that line or to take bloods from it. It's like 10 minutes maybe, and then they'd go again. And was that palliative care services? No, it wasn't. You know, yes, they looked after him and his line. You know, they would flush his line to make sure he didn't block. They would take bloods if Newcastle requested it. But were they there out of hours to help us? No. Were they there when Kori passed away to help us? No. You know, it's and that is a massive, major problem. There is nothing, and the NHS are now saying that that was palliative care. So if that was palliative care, it's not good enough. It's not good enough, and there needs to be better things in place for children and for families. You know, because what would have happened? Our argument now is, okay, so they were palliative care nurses, which they weren't. In my eyes, they weren't anyway. They were lovely nurses, don't get me wrong, but what would have happened if Kori would have passed away on a Friday afternoon? It's not 9 till 5, and then it becomes a weekend, and the funeral directors are not open till Monday, and these so-called palliative care services, which are available, are not available. So would we have had to keep Kori for 2.5 days? 2 days? That doesn't even bear thinking about. If it wasn't for the hospice care that we received, then Kori would have been overnight with us, you know, and we would have had to wait for 9 AM the next morning. And you know how harrowing that is, to have your child deceased in the room with you, and you can't help them, and you can't keep them cold, and all the things that they need, the special care that they need. I'll tell you something, it's traumatic and sad and scary, and at that point you are all over the place and your emotions are all over the place, and you've got nowhere to turn to. Short of ringing the ambulance and getting him transferred somewhere he did not want to go, that was on his care plan, he did not want to go, you're on your own. And that needs to change. Someone needs to step up and go, this needs to change. And I'm going to stamp my feet and scream until I get that change. But putting all that aside, it's frigging hard to go through this. This is my little boy, Kori. This was when he got his silver play button for his YouTube channel, which was helped that, oh my gosh, like it was one of his dying wishes was to be a YouTuber and to get a silver play button. And so many people contributed to that. YouTubers, non-YouTubers, some celebrities, you know, they all helped, they all chipped in and they all subscribed to him. And this came before Christmas and I hid it from him. It arrived about 1:30 in the morning and I didn't tell him it was here. And he was doing an unboxing video and I snuck it in on one of his videos. And then he opened it. I knew what it was and he didn't, obviously. And he opened it and it's like, it's my play button. And he was so excited. It's one of the happiest memories I have of him. Kori with his play button. And all I have of him now is on a card. Yes, I have loads of videos of him. Yes, he fulfilled a lot of his wishes. And yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones, I guess. So many people have said, you are one of the lucky ones. You know, we lost our child straight away. We didn't get any warning. You know, you knew he was going to go. You got to make memories. You got to say goodbye in a way. You know, yeah, I did. If you count being lucky as having 12 years of watching my son suffer from a congenital heart defect that I knew he was going to die from. It's in a living grief. Yes, I am lucky to a certain degree that I got to spend the extra time with him and we knew what was going to happen, but we didn't know when. So I'm sure people can relate to people who are living with somebody who is in palliative care. You are in a living grief. You don't know when it's going to happen. You are literally waking up every day going, is this it? Every meal, is this the last meal? Is this the last time we're going to have a kiss? Is this the last time I'm going to cuddle them? Is this the last time I'm going to buy them something? Is this the last Christmas? Is it the last birthday? And people say, you can't live like that. You've got to live. And it's like, how can you not live that way? I challenge anybody who is a parent, carer to somebody who's in palliative care, whether they're child, adult, to not think that way. You can't not. The slightest sniffle, the cough, you know, if they're breathless, if they're tired, like you're thinking, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? You are in a living grief every single day of your life. And you're too scared to go to sleep most nights because you're scared you're going to wake up and find out they've gone. That is not lucky. That is frigging hard. And that's another thing that I was not prepared for. The fear. The grief, the fear, the just anticipation, and then when it happens, it's not a relief. People said, you know, some people said you might find it's a relief because he was suffering and all. And frigging relief? What stupid thing to say. Is it a relief? No, it's not. I want my child back. Yes, he was suffering and I would never want that for him now. Like, I have said so many times that I want him back. I've been told that if he came back, he would be on oxygen. He would be on morphine. He would be bedbound. He would be back in his wheelchair. I know I wouldn't want that for him, but on a selfish note, I can't live without my child. And I miss him every day. And I have no flaming clue I'm going to get through his funeral. I'm going to see him in his forever bed with his name carved. And then have a service and stand in front of all these people. I have really bad anxiety. I don't. And people said you don't have to do it, but yes, I have to do it. Of course, if my son can do what he did and battle life and do it with a smile on his face and with dignity, I can damn well get up in front of hundreds of people and read a poem that I've written for him even if I am scared witless, and then I have to put on my big girl pants and my pirate outfit and go and watch him be buried, knowing he's scared of the dark and he's claustrophobic. It's just, but I can't have him cremated. I wanted him to have a beautiful resting place, and that's what we're going to go for. And that's another thing as well that they don't tell you about. I'm still carrying on, so if you're sticking with me, well done. So, another kick in the teeth. Graves. Something else they don't tell you about as well, when you're going through all the other stuff that you've got to go through, is that when Kori passed away, I had this image in my mind of this beautiful, big, elaborate, beautiful headstone for him with a marble tricorn on the corner, which is what somebody suggested to me, and it was beautiful because, like I said, he's going to be called Captain Kori on his headstone, and I wanted a big, beautiful, I don't even know what you call it, like a floor, like a marble floor, like a plinth that goes across the length of his plot. And that was going to have a beautiful cut-out section in the middle, like a river, but I was going to put all succulents up it and have his hand and footprints lasered onto it, and all these beautiful things that I was going to do, because he loved the eco garden at the hospice he stayed in. He loved nature, loves nature. And then we went to see a headstone specialist, and it wasn't the best experience in the world, and he just said, no, can't have that. Stop doing that in the 80s. And I was like, what? No, you can only have up to 1 metre for a headstone. You can't go big. You can't have the plinth that you wanted because they stopped doing that. And it's all down to maintenance. Not slagging off the council or anything like that, but I was not happy. In my head, I still don't understand why, if you've bought a plot for your loved one and you've paid money for that plot and they're going to be in that, so no one else can go on top of them or anything else, that, why can't you have like a floor on that? Why couldn't you have like a marble plinth? You know, I don't really call them the tops or whatever. And they said it's because of maintenance issues, you know, because it's just harder to maintain, you know, with like, they have to go around with the lawnmowers. And my thought was, well, that's stupid, because if there's a big, tall marble section on top of that plot of land, they don't have to mow it. It's less to mow. It keeps it, all you have to do is just go around it with a strimmer, and I will flipping do that. I'll pay for a gardener to do that. But no, you're not allowed it now. There's just the rules have changed or whatever it is. It's all about convenience. And like I said, I'm not at all having a go at the council for this, but I think it's stupid. I do. I think it's stupid and it's not fair. And if you've paid for that plot for your loved one to go in, you should be allowed to do what you want with it, as long as it's not offensive to anybody. But no, you can't. Everything nowadays is about convenience. People don't write to each other anymore because it's easy to send a text message. I like letters. People, you know, you can't have the grave you want for your loved one because it's inconvenient, because it's more convenient to go over with a mower. And it's just like, what the actual is that? And that just knocked me sideways. Like, I was devastated, and I sobbed on my husband, and I just couldn't believe it. So we are now looking at alternatives. I've rung the council again, and I've been told that not only are we not allowed a marble plinth, but you're also not allowed edging, boarding, anything there. You're not allowed to put anything there. Anything you do put there is left at your own risk. It can be removed, whatever, you know. Obviously weather damage, that's fine, but it's like, you know, you expect that, but you could put something there and they could take it away because it's not allowed. So, especially for a child, for me, I want to put windmills and solar lanterns and beautiful things there for him, and a plant pot and bird feeders and all that kind of stuff, and been told, no, you can't do it. Well, I am. I'm not letting him lie there with just a headstone and nothing else. This is my child. So that was another thing to watch out for. Make sure you read your regulations and check what you can and can't do before getting your hopes up to have a beautiful, elaborate, beautiful resting place for your child to be told no. That was hard. It is hard. I'm struggling with that. I'm really struggling with that. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up now because I have been chuntering for so long, and my message to you is, if you are following this path, or even if you're not and you're just interested in what happens, it's the worst experience I have ever had in my life. I have lost my mum, I've lost other family members, I've lost friends. And, you know, out of all of that, the pain of losing a child, for me personally, far surpasses anything I have ever felt before. It feels as though my soul has been ripped in two, that I am lost. And I look at photos of him, and that's all I've got are photos. And yes, I've got YouTube, which is a blessing. I'm glad we did all those videos together. And I get to hear his voice and see him laugh, but nothing. There is nothing like being able to walk into your child's bedroom and give them a hug. And I walk in his bedroom now and it's empty. There's no Kori in there. There's no tablet on. And the medical services are wanting to take everything back. So they don't give you time. They want everything back straight away. So yeah, within days of him passing, they were coming and removing his oxygen concentrator, his oxygen tanks, which is fair enough. Other people need them, I get it. And then next to go is the mobility car, which we've been given 3 weeks to give back. Another thing, it sounds stupid because Kori was on DLA, so we got a mobility car. That's the car that Kori's been on holiday in. We've taken him for day trips out in it, and it's just another thing which is going to be gone, which is another bit of him. But the thing I'm struggling with the most is his wheelchair. Like, Kori was given a wheelchair not long ago. We had to wait a while for it. And he was given a big wheelchair with the big wheels, and we put all the rainbow spokes on it for him. The padded armrests were bought as presents for him from his Amazon wishlist that he's got on his channel. And we basically pimped up his chair, make it really nice. And it sounds stupid maybe to you guys, but that wheelchair means so much to me. It gave me and Kori the freedom to go out together, to go for walks around the eco garden at the hospice, to run around and pull wheelies in it, and just carry things that meant a lot to us, and see him smile and see him wheeling himself around. And that wheelchair holds so many memories, and that for me is the hardest thing to give up. I have even gone to them and said, please will you let me pay you full price for a brand new wheelchair and let me keep this one? And they've said no. They've agreed to let me keep it for 2 to 3 months. Whereas to me that doesn't make any sense, because I can give them the money for a brand new wheelchair now, so nobody has to wait for it, and just let me keep that one. And they won't let me. They want it back. They don't care. They just want it back. And surely, in my head, it doesn't make any sense. I don't want to let things go. Like, that's the biggest thing of Kori that I have left. Everything else, they're taking his car, they're taking his medical equipment, they're taking everything that was Kori and kept him going away. That's the one thing I want to keep, and I've offered to pay full price for it, buy them a brand new one for somebody else, and they just want it back, and I don't want to give it back. It sounds stupid because he's gone, and if he's in spirit, he doesn't need it anymore, but I need it for my mental health, for my mental stability. That is something that I'm really attached to, and it means a lot to me. So be prepared to also lose things which are probably trivial to some people, but not to me. So yeah. None of it is easy, and it happens a lot quicker than you think it's going to. You're not given time to grieve, you're not given time to process before you're having to plan funerals, and just everything just hits you in the face so fast, and you have no time to think before it's over. And it's horrible. So this is it now, the end of the video. What is it like to lose a child? It's like a piece of you is ripped away forever, and you are never going to get that part of yourself back. The grief comes for me in waves where I can talk and then I'll be fine, and then the next minute it takes something so small, seeing his dressing gown, hearing a piece of music, seeing an advert on the telly, knowing that Christmas is coming up, it's his birthday next month, all those things, and then I just absolutely fall to pieces and cry and can't breathe. So Kori's funeral is in 2 days' time, and I'm not ready, and I don't want to face it, and I have to be brave for him, but I'm scared. I am really scared, so I'm going to use my channel as a bit of a video diary, I think, of how I get through these things. And if you're like me, you don't want to get dressed, don't get dressed. You don't want to talk to people, don't talk to people. Don't eat, don't drink. Just do you know something? It doesn't matter. You're going to get cliches thrown at you left, right and centre, how you should keep on fighting and keep your chin up and live for your other kids, and you can't do this and you shouldn't do that. And like, people mean well. People do it out of love, but if you're like me, you just want to scream at them to shut the F up and leave you alone. And it's not because you don't care, it's because you need to do it how you need to do it. So right now, I am in my pyjamas, I'm in my hat, I am absolutely shiting myself about Wednesday. I am grieving, I miss him, I don't want to face life. Half the time I don't even want to be here. And I don't care what anyone else thinks about that, because this is my grief and this is my way of dealing with things. And at the end of the day, you have to do what is right for you. And just, if you don't want to talk, people say keep talking. If you don't want to talk, you don't talk. Curl up in a ball on the sofa and cry until you've got snot running down your face. That's what I do. Stay up all night crying. That's what I do too. This is a hard journey. It's not easy. And you have to do what is right for yourself. So you do that, okay? But can I ask you a favour, please? If you see this little beautiful boy called Kori, Captain Kori, Kori, on YouTube, on Cracking the Box, go and give him a subscribe. Yeah, keep his channel alive. We've got a lot of videos to still come from this little trooper here. A lot. We had a backlog of videos, and we intend on keeping his channel going with places that we're going to visit for him. And we are at the moment in the process of setting up something called the Captain Kori Foundation, which we are working towards getting to be a registered charity, which will help other children and families who are going through palliative care, CHD, like congenital heart defect, and raising awareness for organ donation. Talking organ donation really quickly, it's completely your choice, but think about it when it comes to your children. It is not something anybody wants to normally think about, but like me and my little boy, if your child suddenly became ill and needed a transplant of any kind, think of how desperate you would be for that transplant. And you have the power to change somebody else's life, not just one child, but their whole family, their community, their friends, their life. It's such a hard thing to ask anybody to do in the most horrific moment, but if you can make a difference, please do. In Captain Kori's memory, you know, and for the memory of your child, it's the most selfless gift you will ever give. And I am going to sign off for now and go and have a really big cry. So from Captain Kori, from Cracking the Box, and from the Crap Goth, his broken-hearted mother, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.